Good morning, everybody. So we're here to open the second day of a very exciting conference. Now let's invite our speakers. The first will be our most prestige, Venerable Hing Hong. So we will present him a book. So the second is Ernest from Dongling Goyun. So now welcome Dr. Georgie Lee from CBS. And now welcome Maggie from Buddhist Store. And now the next one, the speakers in the afternoon. This is Venerable Fanti from Dongling Temple. Our last speaker is Venerable Riba from a Tibetan Temple and High Academy of Tibetan Buddhism. And let's welcome all the speakers to take a photo here together. Thank you. So now George will be the moderator, and he will introduce the next speakers. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. So this is my great honor to introduce a keynote speaker for today. So how many of you have heard about Venerable Hing Hong? Can you clap your hands? Wow. So I think I don't have to say a lot, as you guys have heard so much, right? But Venerable Hing Hong is not just a great monk and great scholar and someone who is very compassionate and did a lot for the community, but also my own master, my Sifu. With my all humbleness and great honor, I would like to introduce Venerable Hing Hong's background. So for our first keynote speaker, we are very honored to introduce Venerable Sek Hing Hong, a distinguished honorary assistant professor at the Center of Buddhist Studies, the University of Hong Kong. Venerable Hing Hong is widely recognized for his pioneer work in integrating traditional Buddhist wisdom with modern neuroscience. His open-minded approach has made significant contributions to the understanding of how ancient practices like meditation and chanting influence brain function and emotional regulation. Through his consistent involvement in neuroscientific research, Venerable Hin Hong bridges the gap between spiritual traditions and contemporary science, making Buddhism accessible and relevant to the modern world. His work, ranging from the neuroscience of meditation to the application of counseling skills in Buddhist practice, offers valuable insights into how ancient teachings can promote mental well-being in today's fast-paced society. Venerable Hin Hong's commitment to interdisciplinary collaboration and his participation in global conferences make him an invaluable thought leader in both Buddhist and scientific communities. We are privileged to have Venerable Hin Hong share his insights at this conference, where his unique perspective will undoubtedly enrich our understanding of the intersection between religion and science. So after this short and sweet introduction of Venerable Hin Hong, please put your hands together again to welcome Venerable Hin Hong to be our first keynote speaker. Venerable Hin Hong.
Thank you, George, for the very nice introductions. Actually, what I am presenting today is not my work. It's the work of our team. Without our team working together, I would not be able to come up with all this information or scientific publications. So what you are seeing is a teamwork, okay? Obviously, I would not be able to come up with all this. Okay, well, most of you would know that during the last 20 years, there has been a lot of scientific articles or publications on mindfulness, which one can regard as a kind of Buddhist teachings. However, research into traditional Buddhist practices in the scientific way has been lacking. There has not been too many scientific research in the traditional, more particularly religious chanting, the Chinese chant meditation, Chan Hua Tou, and all that. So there has not been too many of these research. So being in the University of Hong Kong, we decided to do it ourselves. So we came up with the lab, the Buddhist Practice and Counseling Science Lab. And under this lab, we have published many papers, and I'm going to introduce to you 5 of the papers that we have worked on the Buddhist practices, mainly Buddhist practices. I will go into them one by one. The first research that we have published is we are looking for scientific evidence, scientific validations on the effectiveness of religious chanting on emotional regulation. This is what we were talking about. This paper we published on 2017, so quite 5-6 years ago, okay? So what we were looking for, we were using EEG measure event-related potential, we were using event-related potential to measure how brain waves react. So this event ERP is how the brain waves react to specific events. To explore the effect of chanting the name of a Buddha, in this case Amitabha, on the brain response to viewing negative, fearful, stressful, provoking situations. So what we're asking the participant to either they chant Amitabha or Santa Claus, the difference between, also we want to look for the difference between a trained and untrained person experience of pain and suffering. So for a trained person, or as opposed to untrained persons, does he only experience pain or pain and suffering, or both? Okay, so that's why we want to find out. So what we did, we invited 21 participant individuals aged 40 to 52 with at least 1 year of religious chanting experience. And then we analyzed the EEG and the galvanized skin response. So we're using these to measure the data. And when they are measuring and chanting the Amitabha, we show them this negative or neutral picture. Negative meaning bloody, horrible, scary, and then neutral just ordinary pictures. So we also, this is the research design. So we the participant either view the neutral or fearful images while they are chanting, the religious chanting, in this case Amitabha, in Chinese, Amitofat, or when they are chanting non-religious chanting, 聖誕老人, 聖誕老人. or no chanting. So there's 3 conditions, and while they are looking at either the negative or neutral pictures, okay? So the measurement that we measured the EEG, what we call event-related potential, just I explained just now, event-related potential is that we show them some pictures and events to stimulate their brain and measure their EEG wave. That's what it's called, event-related potential. Then we use the EEG, which is the 1,000th of a milliseconds of the wave, and then we added which can differentiate the early and late information processor, which I'll show you. So this is they first recite the Amitabha, and then the 30 seconds, and then they look at these horrible pictures of the dot in the middle, and then they close eyes, and then when they look at all these pictures, we measure their brain wave. So this is the result, and I think this is the most interesting and revealing result. Okay, so here is the time, 0. This is the time that they show the pictures, the horrible pictures, or those 6 conditions. Viewing the negative pictures, the horrible, bloody pictures, or, which is the green line, okay, green line like here. And then the neutral pictures, so which is the dotted line, okay, up here. Or then when they're viewing negative pictures, and then chanting Santa Claus, which is the solid line, solid blue line, okay. The green line, blue line down here, okay? Or they see the view the neutral pictures and chanting Santa Claus, the neutral pictures, and then the blue dotted line is up here. And then which is the most interesting and the most revealing is that the red line here, the viewing negative pictures and chanting Amitabha. So now the negative pictures is down here. Negative pictures, Santa Claus is also down here. However, when we're chanting Amitabha and looking at the negative pictures, the red line is up here. However, in the initial stage, the N1 stage, this is the first 100 milliseconds. Now, if you see the first milliseconds, you see that the negative pictures and Amitabha chanting conditions, they went shot up. Now, this is very important that the reaction shot up, meaning that those people that were chanting Amitabha and looking at the body picture, they actually saw the body pictures, okay? So they saw the body pictures, they went up here. However, when they get to 300, 400, 500 milliseconds, this is the initial reactions. First, the occipital lobe, they see the images. When they get to the 300, 400, 500 milliseconds, that's the emotional part of response to the pictures. So the participant, when they were chanting the Amitabha, they saw the pictures as we measured it here in the 170 milliseconds. However, when they get the 300, 400, 500 milliseconds, the emotional reactions of the negative pictures is gone, okay? So at the beginning, you can see that there was they saw the pictures. However, when it's here, the emotional part, the emotional reactions of looking at the negative picture is neutralized, probably by the chanting of Amitabha. This is what we have actually finalized. So the result, and furthermore, we use source analysis to find out where was this, the difference came from. The results show that when compared with neutral pictures, negative pictures elicited more parietal activity, this part of the brain. So when you look at negative picture, this is part of the brain is responsible for emotions. So when you look at the passive no chanting and Santa Claus, this part of the brain is reacted. However, the parietal lobe, this part of the chanting Amitabha, did not react at all. So this activity could not hardly be seen in Amitabha conditions. So the heart rate of the also decreased significantly during the chanting Santa Claus conditions and no chanting. However, while chanting Amitabha viewing negative pictures, participant heart rate did not differ significantly from those observed during neutral pictures. So you can see it did not change anything. So therefore, it is possible that chanting of Amitabha might have helped the participant to develop a religious schema meaning a kind of neural network, and neutralized the effect of the negative stimulus. So basically what we found out is that, so this is the conditions. This study scientifically validated for the first time. I don't think anybody have done research on chanting Amitabha in the whole world. First time that Buddhist chanting or the repetitive of religious prayer more broadly, will not modulate brain response to negative stimulus. That means you can see, even though you're chanting Amitabha, you'll see what is out there. However, during the early perceptual stage, this is perception, where the early part when you're looking at it. Instead, modulation occurs only during the late stage emotional cognition. So the modulation, the changing of the brain of Amitabha is only on the late stage and the emotional stage. That means you can see the images, but you would not have the emotional response to the images. This is what we find out, okay? So this demonstrated a person with practice, i.e. in this case, religious chanting, could experience pain, but not suffering as explained in the sutra. This is what we find out with scientific evidence and validations. Okay, this is the first. The findings support the idea that religious practice can serve as an effective coping mechanism for stress and negative emotion. Well, if you're a Buddhist and you are chanting Amitabha, you know this for a long time. If you have worry, you have scared, you chant the Amitabha names or the Avalokitesvara names, then the fear is gone. But what we did was that we have now scientific evidence to show people that yes, what these people claim to be they experience, we can now actually measure them using EEG machines and prove to the scientific world that religious chanting is a valid and effective means to modulate our emotions. This is what we have shown in this research. So the next research that we did was again on the religious chanting, but this time what we want to do is we want to find out the brain and neural activities of chanting Amitabha Buddha. So being in the University of Hong Kong, we cannot just claim something. We need to tell you why it is happening, how it is happening. So we want to show that, find out, what is the brain and the neural activities is doing when we are chanting Amitabha. So this is what we find out. So, by the way, this is supposed to be, not supposed to be, this is actually chosen by the Hong Kong U Vice President of Research to be the research of that month. So they show people, this is a nice research that they put it on the website. You can go on the website and still see our pictures there. And just to prove you that the quality of our research has been endorsed and supported by the university. And then, so what we did, so this is the research. Despite extensive research on various types of meditation, research on the brain and neural activity of religious chanting is in a nascent, early stage. The present study combined it, in this case, advanced multimodal electrophysiological and neuroimaging methods. That means this time we are not only using EEG, we are also using other measurement tools, in this case, fMRI machines. So we're using fMRI machines and EEG machines and other machines to investigate into the brain and neural activities of chanting Amitabha. So we are not only looking for the effect, we want to know how is this religious chanting influence the brain, okay? So this is what we found out. So what we did, we measured them, the EEG as I explained to you, and then furthermore, we used the fMRI. We sent the one very senior practice nun into these fMRI machines, and we measure his brain. And we also measure the ECG and respiratory data to find out what his body is doing, okay? So the conditions, there's 3 conditions in the random order. So there's first the religious chanting, so mentally chanting Amitabha, and then internally and silently. So that means they don't need to move their mouth and they don't need to chant with voice, okay? Just chanting to themselves. And then there's no chanting conditions, and then the non-religious chanting. This is again chanting the Santa Claus. This is the 3 conditions. We measure them and compare them. So this is what we find. We have the 22 participants, and then at least 1 year meditative experience of chanting Amitabha, and the special participant, a nun that we sent in. She's 43 years old, and she claimed that she had been chanting Amitabha very seriously and devotedly, and she can chant very, very fast. So okay, then we say, okay, can you go into the fMRI machine? And so we measure him and say, okay. She went in and we measure her, And then, so this is the findings. So this is the first graph that we're looking at. So this is A. Okay, so we measure the eigenvector centrality. What is the eigenvector value? Let's look at the centrality. Centrality meaning how important and how central is this part of a particular part of the brain as relationship to other part of the brain. For example, we can say the eigenvector centrality of Emeralty center is very high because all the MTR station go to Emeralty. So Emeralty center centrality is very high and very important. That's what it means. So we want to find out which part of the brain is the most important and reviewing. So we measure the eigenvector centrality of mapping using the fMRI data. So the fMRI data can go into your brain and measure the blood flow and find out exactly which part of your brain is activated. So we use the fMRI data and measure for the centrality, and then review that the posterior cingulate cortex, okay, this part of the brain, is the area of the brain that decreased most in centrality. So the activities of the brain, this part of the brain actually decreased. So it's not so important anymore. So that means all the MTR train need not go through Emeralty. So that's what this is part of the brain. So now all the information after this chanting Amitabha, the information need not go through the posterior cingulate cortex. So what is the posterior cingulate cortex related to? It's a crucial brain regions for various aspects of self. So you're thinking about yourself, you're feeling about yourself, you're feeling lonely. The self part of the brain is the PCC, the posterior cingulate cortex. And we find out that in a highly trained Buddhist meditator, during religious chanting compared to non-religious chanting, this part of the brain, this part of the centrality of this part of the brain decreased significantly. So this is what we find out. So this is, okay, this is part of the brain. Okay, this is the PPC. So this we find out is there. So this is the curve here. You find this part of the brain, the centrality of this part of the brain decrease. So basically, the concept of self actually decreased a lot during when she was chanting the Amitabha. Okay, so that's what we find out. So now, what does that mean? So now that's the EEG. So we measure the other 21 monks. Okay, 21 people. The EEG independent component cluster also review a cluster in the posterior cingulate cortex. So with this 21 Buddhist meditator, we also notice there's a bunch of a cluster of similar activities over here. So what does this cluster mean? So we investigate into the cluster. The spectrum analysis in the cluster of interest allow one to review a significant increase of delta band power during religious chanting compared to non-religious chanting. So this part of the brain, also PPC, in this part, a significant increase of delta band wave. So these are the brain wave. So what are the delta brain wave means? It means that when you are very relaxed, we are calm down, you are asleep, then that part of the brain is falling asleep. So basically what it is demonstrating is that when the people are chanting Amitabha, this posterior cingulate cortex actually kind of went to sleep. That's what it meant, okay? So that means that part of the brain is not active because due to the delta wave is being most obvious in this part of the brain. So it's very endorsing, confirming the effect of the non inside the fMRI machines. Okay, so that's what we find out. Okay, delta wave is also often associated with deep sleep, relaxation, and meditative state. So, and among the 21 participants, we also noticed similar happening. Okay, so also the physiological effect of religious chanting, the cardio, meaning the heart, increase in stability and a decrease in high variability. That means it's more stable, it's not moving, fluctuating all the time. And then the decrease in the very low frequency. And so basically what we did is a conclusion. Religious chanting compared to non-religious chanting significantly increased the delta band power of posterior cingulate cortex. So the posterior cingulate cortex basically now in meditative condition is going to sleep. So the concept of self is now not very activated, okay? And then mindful meditation increased the, neural correlates of some common type of meditation. So I'm comparing other type of meditations. Religious chanting, mindfulness meditation, loving kindness meditation, transcendental meditations. So all these meditations have some different neural activities. So for example, in religious chanting is the increase in delta power in the posterior cingulate cortex. In mindfulness is the increase in alpha and theta wave in the prefrontal cortex and the reduced amygdala activities, loving kindness, gamma wave. So different type of meditations have different neural effects or operations. So what we have demonstrated is that religious chanting, the neural activities is different from that of mindfulness and loving kindness and other type of meditations. So this is important for us counselor, because depending on who is coming, the particular problem of a particular person, you can prescribe, you should do compassionate meditation, or you can chant Amitabha, or you can do this. So you cannot, so meditation may not or should not be a one-size-fits-all type of meditation, depending on the person's needs, because of the neural activities of a particular meditation method is quite different from the other. So you should choose a type of meditation that is fitting to the needs of your client. If you are introducing meditation, introducing some kind of meditation to your clients, and you should know the different effects of the type of meditation, the neural activities. By knowing the neural activities of the particular meditations, then you can know which type of meditation is more suitable to your client. Okay, so this is what we find out. Okay, so conclusion. Potential therapeutic application. The observed increase in delta band power and the associated reduction in self-oriented thoughts and sensory monitoring suggests that religious chanting could be beneficial for managing conditions like sleep disorder and addictions. These findings open up potential avenues for therapeutic interventions that utilize religious chanting for similar practice. We are using a lot of religious chanting during our one-to-one counseling. And we found that if a client is willing to take up this religious chanting or take up the meditation practice, then his or her chance of succeeding in the counseling program is much increased. And then comparative insight over other meditative practice by distinguishing the effect of religious chanting from those of other meditative practice like mindfulness meditation. The study highlight the diversity and specificity of different meditative techniques. So this can inform personalized approach to mental health and well-being, where specific practices are recommended based on individual needs and conditions. This is what we found out. So the third research that we did, again, is more on the religious chanting. And this time we want to know the mechanism of repetitive religious chanting. Mechanism. So we find out which part of the brain is activating. We want to find out how does it work? What's the mechanism behind this religious chanting? So we did another research into this religious chanting. So religious chanting may alleviate symptoms of affective distress as involved in these emotional thinking and rather than rationality. So the research had no direct investigation into the mechanism. How does it work? How does this religious chanting influence your brain so that the religious chanting can have a significant effect onto your regulations and emotions? We want to find that out. So no direct research into the mechanism of repetitive religious chanting on negative emotion modulations. So the present study aimed to explore the role of subcortical brains and the particular amygdala. We know this part of the brain and amygdala is related to our emotions. So we want to zoom into this part of the brain and see when you are chanting Amitabha, how does the brain help you to neutralize the negative emotions? That's what we want to find out. Okay, so again, we have 21 Buddhist participant. We gave him $200 for coming to the research, and then as the experiment design as a 2 × 3 factorial design. So there's 2 emotional level. We show them the fearful pictures and the neutral pictures, and then the 3 chanting conditions: religious chanting, Amitabha; non-religious chanting, 聖誕老人, 聖誕老人, and the no chanting. So we measure them and we show them these horrible pictures come from this collections. And so this is what we find out. Okay, we correct the MRI, fMRI data, and then data analysis. So in this research we brain asymmetry analysis. Brain asymmetry analysis means our brain have two sections. We want to find out how the left section of the brain as comparing to the right section of the brain. So that's what we did. Another this VBM calculation. If you want to know more about this, ask Dr. Gao. He's the guy that came up with all this. Okay, so this is the when I found out the subcortical region of the brain. So studies show that religious chanting affect brain regions involved in emotional. These are the brain regions. Compared to non-religious chanting or no chanting, the religious chanting engage the whole lot of the brain. So the left parietal lobes, the prefrontal cortex, and subcortical regions, the Amitabha, the whole sections of the brain is involved in all that. But then more importantly, the effect of religious chanting on these parts of the brain suggests that religious chanting can induce a potent and pervading positive emotions. We know that when a person is chanting religious concept or Amitabha, then they are inducing some kind of positive emotions. And because this whole part of the brain, or all these sections of the brain, is involved in the chanting, so if all these parts of the brain is involved in the chanting of the Amitabha or religious object, then because of the religious chanting, then the religious chanting would induce a positive atmosphere. So basically, is this all these parts of the brain is somehow related to the development of the positive feelings. Okay, so that's what is very important. So in the context of religious practice, this fit with the commonplace scenario where a religious devotee, just a person like you and me, uses religious chanting when confronted by negative events. So you see a ghost, or you think you see a ghost, you see people showing up, and then you say, what do? You say, Amitabha, 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 And then to invoke a strong positive emotions and counterbalance any negative effects. So that means whenever something come up, you chant Amitabha, 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 Amitabha. And then because of your chanting of the Amitabha name, you somehow invoke or call into existence this power or the positive emotions that is religious, that is related to Amitabha. So this is what we find out. This suggests that religious chanting can induce a strong positive emotion schema. So a schema meaning some kind of structure. So when you are chanting Amitabha, and because when you are chanting, all these parts of the brain are activated. And when they are all when different parts of the brain are activated together, they somehow link together. You understand what I'm saying? So when they are working together, they always build up a link together. The more they are exercised in a particular way, the more they are linked together. So when you are chanting Amitabha or chanting something repeatedly, then all these parts of the brain become connected. When they're all connected, so when they're chanting all connected in a positive way, it would help you to induce the positive emotions. So that's why we say the religious chanting can induce strong positive emotional schema, the structure, as a result to countering a negative effect during stressful event. This is what we found out. Another interesting finding is that asymmetry amygdala activities. So we find out that higher it is, the more activities in the left part of the amygdala, that part here. And then a strong positive correlation between amygdala activity and religious chanting fear. No significant correlation between religious chanting and the other. Amygdala is more pronounced while at repetitive and religious chanting. Amygdala, especially under the most stressful condition of our experimental paradigm. The observed asymmetry activated suggests that the left amygdala may play a more critical role than the right amygdala in regulating stressful emotion during religious chanting. Now, what is the difference between the left amygdala and the right amygdala? The right side of the amygdala is mainly responsible for negative emotions. However, the left amygdala could be responsible for both positive and negative emotions. So we can conclude that since the chanting Amitabha has a positive effect, so we can conclude that chanting Amitabha, the left amygdala, because it's very activating, so it's very likely that the brain is developing some kind of positive emotions, okay? So it's generally involved in sustained, detailed, and complex emotional processing, including both positive and negative emotions, and play a significant role in memory consolidation. So the positive emotion is sink in or store in the left amygdala with the positive and consolidation. That's how it formed the positive schema, the structure that link all the different parts of the brain. Okay, so practicing religious chanting may structurally literalize a network of brain area involved in biased memory formation. Biased meaning more positive reaction. So whenever you chant Amitabha or some religious chanting, the brain call into existence the structures that you have been developing all the time. So that's why it works. Okay, so these function and structural results suggest that religious chanting help to form a positive schema to counterbalance negative emotions. That's what we found out. It works. And how did it work? Because you're chanting Amitabha or some kind of religious chanting all the time. As you chant, different part of the brain is involved. Because of the different part of the brain is involved, it forms structures. So when the brain have these structures, you chant Amitabha again, the structure become activated. When so many parts of the brain is positively connected, then the negative emotions cannot arise. So therefore, it does work, because all the Buddhists know that when you chant something, it can, counterbalance the negative emotions. And we have now scientific evidence. Oh, those Buddhists are actually not telling lies. It worked for them. Okay, so conclusion. Emotional regulation. Religious chanting could reduce the brain's response to negative stimulus, neutralizing negative emotions, brain activities, brain regions like all these parts are activated, and forming a positive emotional schemas, and then structural change, long-term chanting changes subcortical and cortical areas supporting positive emotional states, and then neural mechanism, decreased centrality of posterior cingulate cortex due to increased delta brainwave, and then the cardiovascular stability, stabilize, and activity. So this is the conclusion on all the neuroscientific study that I have just mentioned. So basically, we are telling you something that you all know, most of you know, that it works if you chant the religious chanting. And the reason that we need to do this is that nobody have done it. And then mindfulness became so popular all over the world because of this scientific research. And we want to prove to the world in a scientific way that chanting, religious chanting in the form of Amitabha or possibly other form of meditation actually does work as claimed by religious practitioner. That's the things that we found out from the free research on So there's a therapeutic potential, offer unique psychotherapeutic benefit for emotional regulation and stress management using repetitive religious chanting. So that's all. But for the conclusion, I don't want to do so many. It's okay. So the fourth research that we did, something totally new. This is George research. Yeah, that is George. So we want to find out the age-related brain wave and stress. So the influence of awareness training program on age-related brain wave and stress. This is what we on the fourth research. Oh, okay. So now you know that the age often is related to awareness decline and psychological stress. Stress and aging are linked to changes in brain electrical activities, including decrease in gamma wave, which may indicate cognitive decline. So this is now basically quite accepted that all your gamma wave activities kind of slow down, indicating that you're not thinking so smart. Basically, that's what it is. So we want to find out they found out that meditations can help you to slow down this effect. So what we want to find out, so the study explored the potential influence of awareness training program. Awareness training program is a program that we developed here in-house and using the Chanting Mochana Sutra, 解心密經 as a theoretical foundation. We want to find out, does this ATP program influence on age-related brainwave changes and psychological stress, middle-aged adults. Basically, we want to find out, does those participants participating in our ATP program, can we somehow help them to age slower? So if you think you are aging too fast, so maybe you want to participate in the ATP program. That's what we found out. Okay, so we have 110 participants with mild stress, and we recruited and then we separated it into control and the participant. EEG data were collected, and then after 7 weeks and the duration of the ATP course, and then we measured them the resting state, the EEG data while they're closed eye, and then we use the 128 EEG system that we have in now. So that's what we found out is a strong positive peer correlations between the fast EEG wave and age. So as confirmed by other many research, we also observed that there's a strong correlation between your EEG wave and your age. That means there's a relationship there. However, after 7 weeks of ATP program or intervention, the correlation became insignificant of the ATP group. So this is the control group. So these are all the points. These are all the points of the gamma wave that have a significant correlation between the age and the gamma wave. However, in the ATP group, the correlation is gone, indicating that in the control group, which did not participate in the ATP group, so there was a strong correlation. However, if you participate in the ATP group, then somehow your age and the gamma wave, the relationship is broken. You understand? So that's what we found out. This is the correlation, and so this is the red is the control group, the ATP group is there's no correlation, and also we noticed that which part of the brain is showing that indication. So furthermore, there was a significant reduction in stress level as measured by the PP's perceived stress scale on the ATP group. So we can more or less conclude what we found out is that this result suggests that ATP may help modulate age-related effect on fast brainwave as evidenced by the reduced correlation relations magnitude between age and gamma wave and lower psychological stress. This suggests that ATP as a form of mind consciousness modulation may improve stress resilience and modulate age-related gamma wave changes. So that's what we say. Bring me to my last presentation. Oh, that's exactly. Have 10 more minutes. Okay, the last research that I want to present to you is I want to prove to you that practice makes perfect. That means you need to not you go I heard Hong Si said all that. Let's go and practice in 5 minutes and you hope to work. It doesn't work. So why? I'll show you the last research that I want to explain to you. This is very interesting. It's very interesting. Currently, individuals face fewer physiological challenges that you are not hungry and you don't have intensive physical labor, but frequently encounter psychological challenge, ambiguity, disformation, stress from your boss and financial market, all that induce stress, uncertainty, and disformation. We are now facing a lot more psychological challenge or stress. This is especially true in recent years, where recent events have challenged the past expectation and beliefs, instigating doubts and cognitive dissonance. So what does it mean is that I always think that there's a very beautiful lady in the moon called Shanglo. But now there's no more. There's only holes in the moon, and they took the rocks back. And so what happened to the lady in the moon? So there's many challenges that we face. The world should be like this, and good people should be like this, but then good people suffer. And then bad people are living happily. Why is all these challenges? Okay, so we're facing all this. Unfortunately, in our mind, the prefrontal lobe in the human brain can help individuals cope with contradictions and feeling of skepticism, enable us to make careful decisions. So the prefrontal lobe helps us to reconcile, kind of diffuse this confrontation by we have the belief and schemas which are formed from our experience and allow us to make swift decisions. I have saw this many times. Every time I go to this corner, I turn left. So because you have too used to that, but this time you need to turn right. I am too used to go back to our jockey club building, but this time I am supposed to come there. Okay, I went to the wrong place, so I have to run over from our center because I'm too used to that, to believe in schema. Okay, now then we're formed from our experience and allow us to make swift decision. The problem with swift decision is sometimes it's wrong. Okay, so at the same time, however, the problem is that I was too sure of myself. If I was to have a doubting process is needed to continuous update past beliefs so that they are more precise and reflect reality. Then I didn't have doubt. If I had doubt, I will check, and if I check, then I'll be okay. The doubting process, instead of dogmatic attachment belief, is essentially for critical thinking and the development of insight, which is the hallmark of human intelligence. In this sense, doubting process is a vital as belief for maintaining cognitive balance. So we came up with the we didn't came up. We came up with the name. We call it intuitive inquiry meditation. So what is this? Among the various kind of meditation, intuitive inquiry meditation is unique. So the practitioners of intuitive inquiry meditation are encouraged to examine and doubt. Examine and doubt what? All concepts and ideations without using conceptual analysis. You need to put them together. We encourage and examine and doubt all the concepts, and then so should I turn left, should I turn right, or is this a good person and bad person? But now you need to observe and analyze these concepts and thinking without using other concepts. Understand what I'm saying? You need to look at it, so you need to understand, but rather directly and intuitively approach the object of meditation without doubt, with doubt and inquiry. So basically, you say, where's my key? Where's my key? I can't think. Where's my key? So you are observing, but you cannot think. So what you want to observe, what is that concept? But then you look at the concept, you intuitively try to analyze it without using other concepts. This is what we call intuitive inquiry meditations. Okay, even concept of the Buddha and self should be questioned, doubted, and released before real enlightenment can be achieved. If you want to become enlightened, then you need to get rid of the concept of Buddha and the concept of self. How do you get rid of the concept of Buddha and the self? You need to do so by directly and intuitively approach the concept of Buddha and the self without analyzing, but at the same time analyzing. Okay, you are analyzing, but without using concept. You need to observe and understand it, and then see the true nature of whatever it is without using concept. So intuitive meditators are not only guided to inquire and doubt the object of meditation. Now this is more important. For example, when considering Buddha, inquiry and doubt should be also directed towards the one who is meditating. Who is that person meditating? So the self. So not only should you be inquiring, examining the object, so you should also examine the subject. Who is it that is chanting Amitabha? What is there that is doing all this? This is what you should be doing. Chan Master often point out that a small amount of doubt leads to a low level of enlightenment, while a large amount of doubt leads to a high level of enlightenment. So of course, this is my grandmaster. He is a very accomplished, intuitive inquiry meditator. Okay, so we were very lucky. We had a group of monks that actually came to Hong Kong, and then they were in Chingshan. We went all the way there and took the machines all the way to the monastery. Then they gave us a room, and then we measured these people. In the current study, we analyzed most popular form of Chan, the Chinese Chan meditation, Chan Wa Tao, who is chanting the name of the Buddha. So this is the priming question that helped the meditator to develop a doubting and inquisitive mind towards the practice of repetitive religious chanting of the name of Amitabha. So when you chant Amitabha, 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 then you say, hey, who is chanting the Amitabha? Then who is chanting Amitabha? I don't want you to answer me. I want you to observe and investigate who is it that is chanting the Amitabha. But I don't want to think and analyze and give me a conceptual answer. I want you to observe what is there, who is there that is observing. That's what it say, okay? This is towards the practice of repetitive chanting of the name of Amitabha, the most popular religious practice in Mahayana Buddhist tradition. So, chanting Amitabha is the most popular, and then as that as the basis, then we came up with the meditation. Who is chanting the Amitabha? So you investigate into that. So the method is that 20 experienced and 18 beginners. So 38 altogether meditators in intuitive inquiry meditation retreat were recruited for this ERP. So actually we went to the retreat, okay? And then we measured them, the EEG machines, and then this experiment was conducted in a 2x2x2. So 2 meditation conditions. So either they were meditating, inquiry, chanting, or that they are not chanting. And then 2 types of pictures, the Buddha and the meditator themselves. We took the picture of the meditator and showed him the picture of himself or the picture of the Buddha as the 2 conditions. And then the 2 group of participants, the monks and the laymen, the control, okay? So 2 meditation conditions included an inquiry meditation conditions and the normal conditions. So in the inquiry meditation conditions, then the meditator chant, who is chanting the name of the Buddha, Niệm Phật Xi Sui. The normal control conditions, as to to counterbalance, neutralize the wording. Okay, so this is the finding. So participant in the control group. So this is the control group. So show a greater change in EEG response to viewing the Buddha of image in inquiry than in the normal conditions. So when they are practicing meditation, meditations as opposed to not practicing normal, so the difference is here. Okay, so the control. Now for the monk, the difference in the monk inquiry and normal self pictures. So that this is the control, inquiry and normal self. This is the Buddha and self pictures, and then the Buddha. For the Buddha is no difference, and then for the monk there's also very little difference between. There's a difference here. Okay, so in contrast, also participant and control group show a greater EEG to viewing the image of Buddha in the inquiry condition in the normal. In contrast, the experienced monk show a greater change in EEG response to viewing of the self. Actually, we found out that the monk, when they said that this is when they are not, we found them that they look at their own pictures, they reacted more as opposed to looking at the picture of the Buddha. We thought, why is that the case? Why did these monks, when they saw their own pictures, they react so more actively? when we are thinking, these monks, they live in monastery, and they look in the monastery, and they practice all the time, and they live in the chant hall. There's no mirror in the chant hall or the so they haven't seen themselves for a long time probably. So, but they see the Buddha image all the time. So they saw a Buddha image, to them is no big deal. They see the Buddha image all the time, but they haven't seen themselves for all the time. So when they see their own pictures, while they are not practicing the meditation, they react more to seeing their pictures, their own pictures, as opposed to the Buddha image. Okay. Now, something more interestingly happened during the inquiry. Okay. So during the inquiry condition, so they are chanting, they are now practicing. So there was significant the difference in the response of layman to Buddha and self. So for the let's see. So for the layman, for the control here, for the control, there was still difference between the Buddha and the self. The layman react more to the Buddha image, but they react much less to the self image. But for the monk, it's divided way around. So that's why we call it double dissociation. Double dissociation between the two groups is that the monk react more to themselves, and the layman react more to the Buddha image. However, most important is that there was no such difference was found among the monks. This part, when they see pictures of Buddha and themselves, this is when during the inquiry condition. That means when they are doing meditations. When they are doing meditations, for the layman, they still react more to the Buddha image and less to themselves. However, for the monks, there was no difference between the monks when they are seeing the picture of themselves and seeing the picture of the Buddha. So when the monks are practicing, the difference between the Buddha and the self eliminated, gone. Okay. So what does that mean? The difference persists when you subtract the control and the monk. So the difference is still there. So there is actually a difference between the monk and the layman during the practice. Okay. So this is very complicated. I don't want to go through that. Okay, so the practice. During intuitive inquiry meditation, monks demonstrate the ability to reduce the difference in brain activities in response to the self and other concepts, including the Buddha. So when the monks were meditating, after they meditate, they look at the picture of themselves, and the Buddha is gone. However, in contrast, laymen exhibit a significant difference in brain activity when viewing image of self and Buddha during the inquiry condition. This result indicating that beginners were unable to eliminate the difference between the two concepts, the self and the Buddha, to the extent demonstrated by experienced meditators. So my conclusion here is a practice matter. So although you know all these informations and you know all the practice, and if you do not practice, it's not going to have an effect. So this is my last slide. And what I think we have came up with all this research on Buddhist practices is that I think we have successfully or demonstrate to the world using scientific research methodology, the most advanced or up-to-date research methodology that Buddhists practice in the form of either religious chanting or chant meditations or ATP, vipassana and samatha and vipassana type of meditation can effectively regulate our emotions and our brain. And I think what we are doing is just touching the tip of the iceberg. And there's many more things that we can find out. And certainly what we want to prove to the world that the Buddhist practices can actually help you to regulate your emotions. So Buddhist practice is not only for you to escape from samsara of course that would work too. But then Buddhist practice can also help you to regulate your day-to-day emotional problems. Okay, thank you.
It happens that someone on the internet asked me one question. It is in Spanish, but translated in English. So he would ask, so from public health perspective, prevention is always better than cure. Given that the psychosocial and the psychosomatic problems are so prevalent nowadays, how can we apply such findings here practically in daily life to enhance the mental, spiritual, and physical health of oneself, and especially the youngsters, and of the public in general? Yeah,
I think so the question is that how can we apply what I have said here into our daily practice for the is that the case?
Yeah, they want to say that because nowadays it's become more difficult for the youngsters to believe more in spirit or religion because they believe in more scientific evidence. Since now we have already got a lot of them, so how can we really apply and approach this to the general population with their maybe not religious or not spiritual, and especially for the younger generations?
I think the most important step is to help the youngsters and everybody to see and appreciate the dangers of psychological suffering. You know, if you do not see the danger and the dangers of psychological issues and problem in the form of stress and suffering, anguish, and all that, if you allow your negative emotions to continue, your suffering is going to multiply, and you're going to get to a point where it's difficult for you to come back. So it's the first noble truth. You must know that there is suffering. You must be aware that your suffering is bringing you more and more suffering. So only by understanding the danger of psychological issues and psychological suffering, hopefully before somebody kill themselves, then before somebody kill themselves, that the government, the teachers, we should alert and show to the young people and the general public the psychological issues and psychological suffering and psychological problem is a big problem. So being aware of this problem, then people is willing to listen to us and become more aware of their own suffering. And only by being more aware of the suffering, people are committed to practice and committed to learn. If they are very happy and they are not aware of their suffering, then they don't want to spend time to come to this kind of conference, or they don't want to chanting Amitabha. This is for old lady, But then if they find out that their suffering or their problem is severe, and if they do not look after it, then there's a lot of problems. So there's a lot of methodologies that you can apply to psychological issues. We are only one of the options. But the common problem is that people are not aware of the difficulties or the dangers of psychological problems. So there's a lot of advertisement, there's a lot of education to bring to the young people and the general public that psychological issues, psychological problem is a big problem. I think that's the first step. Any more questions? Yes.
Thank you, Hongzi, for your sharing a lot of the updated pioneering researches that are scientific and evidence-based. Actually, this is almost like a follow-up question to the recent one. Part one is, could you share some of the advocacy role or work that you have already done in creating awareness among broader than participants of this conference or the universities? Because at least there are limited participants so far. So what have you done and what do you plan to do in expanding the advocacy in creating awareness as well as sharing the tools? Part two of the question is 7 weeks ATP, very useful, but so far it is still within the university. Would you consider offering this ATP to the broader public, maybe including the schools in Hong Kong?
What I have done?
Or what the center has done?
That's it. Well, we have been working on this for 20 years. So at that time, 20 years ago, nobody was very interested in these kind of things. People were more, happy. Hong Kong at that time was still very busy, enjoying themselves, and But then we start doing it, and then so the first thing that we did was we established the CBS, and then with that as the foundations, then we slowly expand out to other part of the community. So what we have done actually is I think what we have done is the most important is the foundations. We are laying the groundwork, the cement, and the foundations. Without this research as foundation, without these intervention models that we have developed, because we have as you may know, we have developed interventions in-house using Buddhist teaching as foundations. So we have Buddhist teaching based interventions to help people to deal with psychological issues. We spend a lot of time, we spend a lot of effort and to building these intervention models, and we have been developing, doing scientific research to prove to the world that Buddhist practice is actually is a very good option. And so these are the building of the foundations, the building and the cement and the structures, and now I think the building is finished. But then how to decorate it so that people, oh, that's a very interesting building, let's go inside. So this type of conference is important, publication, and I'm getting old, and then more people should come in and help. If you're asking the questions, the best thing is that you come and help help us to distribute all this information. And I noticed that your questions is very specifically focusing on the young people. How to disseminate the ATP program into to the community, and more particular to the school, is that of course we are now offering ATP program occasionally outside of the university system. So you can, I think once in a while you can apply to ATP program offered by the awareness training program. We have now graduated Buddhist counselor being able to offer ATP program and successfully, so you can enroll in awareness training program. However, as you have said, the ATP program is too long, need too much commitment. People are not so aware of their own suffering that they would be willing to commit to ATP. If you want to participate in the ATP program, it's better that you notice you have a lot of suffering and you have suffered. And then because you know that you have suffered, you are willing committed to the ATP program. Without commitment, the ATP program won't work. So it's better if you notice you're suffering, then you want to participate in the ATP program, then it will work. And however, we noticed this problem. So we are now developing a more simplified versions or diluted versions of the ATP program, which we call the 4 hours. 4 hours program. The 4 hours program of ATP. The 4 hours is promoted by the Hong Kong Education Department. The first is relax. The second is rest. The third is relationship and resilience. Okay, 4 R's. So we are using these 4 R's to, we're using the ATP program and to promote these 4 R's. How can you use the components in ATP to help the student to relax and rest? Without relaxation, rest won't work. So we help to teach them how to relax and then teach them how to sleep. Okay, and then we talk about relationship and we talk about resilience using the ATP program. And I think the program is the 4 hours program from ATP is almost finished. We are actually teaching it already in school, and we have very good response from the schools. And basically what we have been doing is building the groundwork. You know, these things are very boring, but it's necessary. Nobody understands them. But then you need to show them to impress people. Oh, they have done all these things, you know. And then if you've done all these things, then the community, the schools, and then the hospital will allow you to go inside. So we need to spend a lot of time to doing all these things and convince ourselves and convince the community, and more specifically the academic community, the medical community, and the social work community, that these guys are not hawks. You know, they are really they know what they're doing. Once they convince that we know what we are doing, then they are more willing to accept us. And that's what we need to do, to convince and show people that we have done all this groundwork, and we have models, and we have intervention that really works. And I can tell you with confidence, the Dharma therapy works because many people have been, you know, I think we have now more than, if we are including the Chisan Monastery Counseling Center, I think we have done more than 2,000 to 3,000 cases using Dharma therapy. Just in awareness training program, in 1 year, we have done more than 600, 700 cases. In the Wang Fa Jingse, I think we have done more than maybe 1,000 or 2,000 cases. Chisan Monastery has at least done our 3,000 or 4,000 cases. So we have done many, many cases. And from the feedback from the clients, they're very happy. Yeah, so we are very confident of the Buddhist teaching-based intervention model. It works. And using these scientific evidence, which demonstrate to you the Buddhist meditation methods, actually also works. Using the most scientific or the most advanced methodology, we were able to demonstrate to the world that it works. Yeah. Okay, am I answering your questions? Okay. Any more questions? Okay, so thank you very much.
So thank you, Venerable Hin Hong, for this very informative and scientific presentation. And one thing that I did not get a chance to say about Venerable Hin Hong, besides being a scholar, besides being a very respected monk, he is also a great teacher with a very strong commitment of compassion to alleviate suffering in our community. And you can see from the years of work that he has done. And one thing that come out from his great effort is he has influenced a lot of people, thousands of people, including me and another very important figure, Dr. Ernest Moon. And Dr. Moon gave me a very simple and modest background that I will read to us. Dr. Ernest is the adjunct assistant professor at Hong Kong U and CEO of Tung Ling Kok Yun in Hong Kong and Canada. He served as a Buddhist chaplain in UBC and SFU and a visitor at healthcare facilities. He engages in Buddhist spiritual care and counseling, teaches mindfulness, and guides force therapy. He specializes in connecting wisdom tradition and spirituality with the contemporary society. And personally, I think it's a great honor to have Dr. to come to us, who is also a very important figure in our field. So thank you, Dr.
Thank you, George. George is wonderful friends and also very compassionate researcher and scholar and practitioner as well. Yeah, thank you. It's a great privilege and honor to be here with you all, online friends like Venerable and teachers and also our fellow colleagues, students in this very important conference. I almost envision this conference, if we count 5-10 years afterward, I think this will be a landmark conference. I actually have that confidence, because when I look at the research on chanting or related practice in the clinical setting, there's so much more we could do, and Venerable Hin Hong presentation definitely demonstrate the research gap, and then what we can do to demonstrate the significance of Buddhist teachings and practices in the clinical and counseling setting as well. I would say today my presentation is a kind of report, or maybe kind of a sharing of what I have been working on with Tongning Kok Yun Canada Society, because after COVID, we attempts to expand our community service. As many of you know, like Tongning Kok Yun in Hong Kong have been in Hong Kong we are celebrating our 90th years anniversary. It's actually a very well known for its Pure Land tradition and practices. Our Venerable Zhang Zit is an expert on that. And then our founder, Lady Kara, many of you, if you have read, actually she is a very recognized and devoted practitioners in the Pure Land tradition. So like when we're thinking about our initiatives in Canada, one thing that we kind of borrow the experience and work in Hong Kong is to see how we can engage with the community with our Buddhist practice. So one thing that we have been exploring is we're using some of the terminology in the West, Buddhist care or spiritual care and counseling. We have been spending time as Buddhist chaplains in the universities, so spending a bit more time with the youth, and also in hospital settings. So right now we have relationship and also connections with the 3 major hospital authorities in Greater Vancouver, so that we have access. Actually, we have referral from the hospitals. If they have Buddhist patients, they will call us from a range of different situations that they are engaging in. Sometimes it's just medical situations, nothing critical. Sometimes it could be an acute, like very emerging, like very urgent situations, like end of life, cancer patients, or something, even like sometimes in the psych ward as well. So it's really a kind of a range of situations and cases that we have encountered. From the local Canadian perspectives, because all the public health systems are public institutions, so unlike Hong Kong, we know that we have the chaplains from different traditions representing in-house within the hospitals. For the Canadian model, they have hired, we call it like spiritual practitioners, clinical spiritual practitioners. So they are actually hospital staff. From the outsider, you can do internship there, you can study the program there, or in another capacity as a denominational visitor. So from our perspectives, I have been going through the training as an intern, but also at the same time, like later on, as we complete the training, we can become volunteers and also kind of denominational visitors into these institutions. So they have 2 streams, like one is like spiritual care. Clinical spiritual care is quite different from counseling in a sense that it's more like being with. So we offer non-anxious presence, like deep listening, kind, compassionate speech. Mostly it's kind of to be with the situations, to help them accept what's really going on. There are definitely transformations, like transcendence and changes involved, but unlike a counseling model, which we want to have certain therapeutic goals, or we use certain counseling model for the transformations. So this is like one stream that they have like on the spiritual care. Immediate support, containment and exploration, shorter term relationships, so that it won't be 8 or 6 sessions that we can arrange. Whereas for the psychospiritual therapy, which I am undergoing my own internship right now, it is more like a counseling model. So if you see the clientele is a bit different because like for spiritual care, we will serve the emergency room. But for counseling, like hopefully no one will sit in the emergency room for 6 or 8 sessions with us, right? And also like it would work for some of the longer case situations, for example, palliative, cancer patients, end of life or bereavement cases after a family end of life situations. As I mentioned, it's more structured. There are goals, and like my supervisor told me, oh yeah, sometimes there are counseling outcomes. Sometimes you have to accept the fact that there's no outcome as well. So that's why I put a question mark in there. It's medium to long term for sure. Growth and transformation involves. And I think after the last few years, one of the key reflections I have is like indeed like Buddhist modalities have a unique underpinning. I was like trying to find the right word, but foundations or underpinning with the transcendental changes through insight and compassion into the reality of ourselves, others, and the environment. I would also like to share that after going through the training and practice myself, I think the way I see my own sufferings and realities and my relations to others also changed, because I've gone through a lot of similar situations alongside with the patients and the families, and also the staffs in the medical and also university setting as well. So I want to bring in 2 concepts, and with the blessing of many venerables here, that I actually have confidence to do this exercise together. And also I invite friends online to join. Yesterday, I would say somehow, I don't know, like the organizer do a fantastic job kind of paving different presenter at different spot. I would say, oh, okay, there's something that I don't have to talk about, but at the same time, we benefit from what they have talked about yesterday. Like, for example, if you were here yesterday, you remember Dr. Perry, Gemma, like she talked about like chanting, and then also Dr. Huang talked about AHER. I try to make sense of what they're talking about, but you will know, I think it's irrelevant, and ASSR. Let's do a little practice. So yesterday, Perry suggests us, okay, we do a little bit of kind of chanting, humming together. We do something similar. So it's all optional, it's all invitational, like for those online and in present. The invitation is to drop your phone, not looking at your screen. You can feel free to close your eye or just open your eyes. But we just have a kind of relaxed, upright sitting, comfortable positions. I would offer a prompt, as what we have done yesterday. You can try to repeat it in your own tone or your own kind of like experience. So oh, is this too long, or I can't follow it? That's fine. Like let's try, right? Like so I will hum it once, and then you can follow next. And we try, like with the blessing of Venerable Fanti Hin Hong, I think we will do a good job. Okay, so let's try this first. Okay, let's try again. Okay. Oh, okay, you're doing good. Yeah, you're doing great. Let's try with a bit more confidence, okay? And then our friends online also can do that together. All right, okay. So this is the ASSR yesterday, right? Like I think Dr. Goh will agree with me, right? Where's Dr. Gao? So it's like the ASSR, because like, it is like monotonous, like we don't have modulation. So it's just like the, right? Okay. Let's try something different. Okay. Do you get that? All right, let's try. Let's do it one more time. Okay. with a little bit more confidence, okay? And also quite natural as well. We're just kind of like breathing out, like we're not trying to breathe like with a lot of extra effort or breathe out with a lot of extra effort. Okay, let's try it one more time. All right. Okay. Oh, someone know what's next to follow, right? Yeah. I would say like in the Western, particularly in the Christian theology, they would describe this as horizontal transcendence. Like in a sense that there's something that we are doing together, like through this like interpersonal relationship that we have, like we are connected. So this is actually very important from client and counselor or practitioners and the patient perspectives. I think Chanel and Becker describe horizontal transcendence as a unison with it could be nature, it could be like social, a commitment, which is generative, but also it is like the care for others. So we just, right now, we kind of sample the horizontal transcendence that we have together. Hope that could bring you a little bit of peace and togetherness. How about vertical transcendence? That is, again, is a kind of like a theology concept. So we have that connectedness, like we have that care, that trust together. Where do we want to take our patients or client forward? Vertical transcendence has a notion of rising above, changing the realities that we are facing in. Canton talk about like the union, like because of course like different religions have different concept. It's kind of like together or the manifestations of the eternal, something like beyond us. Of course, like from the Buddhist perspective, the transcendental would be the divine, like the Buddha, the Bodhisattvas, like the Dharma, or maybe the Sangha, but also like from the Pure Land tradition, like it would be the Pure Land. From this shore of suffering to the other shore of peace, like ease and enlightenment. I would say like very often it is like beyond tangible and empirical because like you are inviting your clients or patients to something they have not experienced before, right? Like if they already manifest or feel or they are being in the Pure Land already, then they would not be suffer, right? So Venerable Hin Hong, Dr. Gao have this like wonderful research on Santa Claus and Amitabha. I think what is quite important in my reflection is that, and also some of the research also talk about it by Brazier, talk about like in terms of like the Pure Land, the chanting, we are not imposing the Pure Land to the patients or those who are seeking help, but we're holding presence, like we kind of hold the depth so that because of our confidence and faith and trust in the Pure Land, come, like we hold the space to invite them to be engaged with that experience. So that's why Brazier also talk about how Pure Land Buddhism is relational. Not only the relationship we have with the Amitabha, but also our relationship with the collective practicing and chanting together. Of course, I think one question, the doubt that I have is yeah, is it like internal? Because like very often we talk of Pure Land Buddhism is something external, as if like we are seeking support from the Amitabha outside of us. But I think to a certain extent, like there are also certain level of internalization as well. A lot of the Pure Land or the Chan or Zen tradition talk about how do we realize the Buddha nature from within. So in these circumstances, we are guiding the patients or the clients like not only connect with a new normal, because like in a lot of therapeutic model, Dr. Josh will know, like we're trying to, okay, yeah, like we have different stages of modality. We try to invite them to accept the new changes, the new well-being, the physical or mental situations that they are in. So like if you have a stroke, you come back, you're not going to have your 100% of functionalities. your body, your physical well-being will have a new norm. Like how do you accept that? But I would say and suggest that like maybe the vertical transcendence through the Pure Land traditions would be also inviting them to a new perspectives. Like how do we invite them to see the world differently? I often remember. Have many of you met with or engaged with a Thich Nhat Hanh retreats or his sharing in the past? Yeah, do you remember like his chanting of Avalokiteshvara, right? Like every time like when I hear that, like, I have goosebumps because he bring forth the sangha. He always like have a sangha behind him. So that is like the horizontal transcendence. And then like he connect like with the sangha, the chanting of the Avalokiteshvara connect you with the compassions, the wisdoms of the Guan Yin, the Guan Si Yin Pusa. On that note, do you want to try another quick experiment? So earlier we have so that have no meanings, right? What if I tell you, and many of you already know, like if we recite Namo Amito, it means that like we are taking refuge, we are taking homage to the immeasurable light and immeasurable time, right? Yeah, like the immeasurable wisdoms. Let's experience that, like when we are, of course, like many of you may not have the same tradition, so it's all optional. But at the same time, like you may kind of try to like maybe listen to it, just like what Perry mentioned yesterday. Listen to it and feel how the qualities may be a bit different, like when we are doing the same humming or doing the same chanting, but we are connecting with something transcendental, like more meaningful than the tone. Shall we? And our venerable here will guide us like with a lot of magnificent power. Okay. Namo Amito Pho. Namo Amito Pho. Namo Amito Pho. Namo Amito Pho. How do you feel about that? Yeah, like very often when I walk inside sessions, or particularly in some of the end of life situations, many of the family members don't know what to do. And maybe like I would be like I may come into the unit with a completely chaotic mindset, but like with the permissions, if we chant together, I calm myself down, right? I calm myself down, and also bring something that we can practice together with the patients and also to the client and the family as well. So, yeah, in a sense, I was thinking, it's almost like a emergency number. So what is the emergency number that you would call when you have an emergency situation? 999, right? And then like now, because I have spent enough time overseas, I was like 911. so it's a bit different. But yeah, I think that ability to recall the Amitabha or the Pure Land practices that we have is our emergency calling number. The Pure Land practices, I would say, in the Mahayana traditions, like Tibetan traditions, like there are in fact like many different Pure Lands. So in a sense that like there are a lot of options for you to choose. In the Buddhist store interview, I also actually reflect and talk about sometime when I go to a visit, they say, oh, Pure Land, like if you talk about Amitabha, am I going to die? Like, seriously, right? Because I say, they may have that wrongful misconception that if we are chanting like Pure Land Amitabha, then my time is up, or is this like the last right? So I think like the question earlier, like how we change people's mindset or the psychoeducation is very important. Tony Kok Yun, our venerable Guanban is kind of almost 9,800 years ago, when he was introducing chanting, he was introducing to the primary school students. So yeah, that is fun, right? So but now I think part of it maybe is our culture, but also like we have that connection. Oh, maybe Amitabha is like when I'm ready to go. So okay, maybe there could be some other options. Some people will still, I want to be healthy. Oh, okay, then maybe we can chant the medicine Buddha. Or maybe some practitioner will say, oh, I have been practicing chant for so long. I am in the Zen tradition. Oh, okay, maybe we can like chant for the Maitreya Buddha. We want to go to Siddha heaven Pure Land. But I would say that the key elements is that like we have that faith, aspirations, and practice to take us or have that visions or visualization to take us from this land of sufferings to the other shore. That is equally important for the clients, like the care seekers, but also for the practitioners. I have to admit that my confidence in the Pure Land grow over time. Because otherwise it won't be convincing. Like you're looking at someone who is going to die, or you're talking to someone who is suffering, you say, oh, okay, let me introduce you to this practice, but I don't know whether it is real. That's not very convincing. So I would say I'm gaining my own confidence into the Pure Land, because otherwise I would not be able to have that horizontal or vertical transcendence to tell the client that this practice is going to change your realities. Like you will be able to manifest Pure Land. Maybe if not next life, maybe if not this life, maybe even like next life. The more also I investigate on the Pure Land practice, also thanks to my work, because of course Tony Koyen has been doing chanting practice with the Guan Yin Medicine Buddha and the Amitabha Buddha. But also last year, the Venerable has published a sutra on the contemplative sutra. Is like the 16th contemplative practices to the Pure Land. So, I then realized there could be a range of practices, from chanting to reflective practices. So in fact, it's quite meditative. It could be skillful means. I think the key benefits of Pure Land practice sometimes is that you could have a range, like from very simple recitations to a very complicated, complex contemplative practices. The Amitabha Sutra promise that sometimes like even one recital for 1 day, 7 days, yeah, you would be there. So I have a lot of confidence that work too, because it's not my word, it's like the Buddha word. And I would characterize like these practices as being, like we are being with the clients and the patients by doing something simple together. Of course, it could be more complicated. The benefit of that is that you can, just as Venerable Hin Hong mentioned, you can prescribe different modality, different practice, depending on the care seeker, the client situations. Maybe like it would change throughout your counseling journey, or maybe you would adopt different prescriptions because of the situations of the client. Like for example, maybe at the very beginning stage of the counseling sections, it would be very hard to tell them, okay, why don't we contemplate on the 16 contemplative methods of the Pure Land. Maybe something more simple, more direct would be helpful than the complicated one. And also, it could be individual, it could be group. We have done something group together. Even like when you are doing it privately, it will equally work. So that have the benefit of different clinical setting as well. And also, one thing that I kind of realized is that Amitabha translation is quite similar across different culture. Our friend, like I have a friend here, like from Korea, is like the same pronunciation, Namo Amitabha. Japanese, even maybe like Vietnamese. So when I'm in Vancouver, Amitabha translation is the same. So it could be something that relatable to them. Like whereas like, if you are using different language in other situations, then yeah, English, Namo Avalokiteshvara, and then Chinese will be Guan Yin, I don't know, the Vietnamese or the Koreans or the Japanese. So that is something also interesting to think about. I talk about the 16 contemplation. I think the idea behind it is that it could be quite visual. It could be quite contemplative and meditative. I think the idea ultimately is like, yeah, you could start from the recital of the Buddhas to something more complicated, connecting with the qualities of the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas, values like their vows, and then like even like visualizing, right? Like you visualize like what the Pure Land look like, as if like you're bringing it actually into your presence. Our traditions have this like 5 assembly recital. I'm actually very pleased and glad that Venerable Hong Xiang, yeah, like he recently published a PhD thesis on the 5 assembly recital. So from Tongling Gaoyun, this is actually quite a germs, like because I think this particularly addressed what we talked about from Dr. Huang yesterday. Like why don't we just recite Namo Ame Topha as Namo Ame Topha versus like the modality that we have just now. And then the 5 assembly have 4 or 6 letters, and then there are different like 2, 7, and 20 tones by Venerable Gunbun. So ultimately, like it could also be connect through the artistic expression. So Dr. Rainbow talked about like the artistic representation yesterday. And then in the Pure Land tradition, there are a lot of poems, a lot of like good visual expressions of how the poem look like. So these are also options that you can choose. For example, in the sun sinking contemplation, there is a poem which is in Chinese, 深海茫茫水接天，百千山未自然成。請觀落日如遠古 means like our heart, the sea of our heart, our minds is like wandering, like water connecting with the skies, like 100 and 1,000, and then like eventually the samadhi will naturally accomplish. Let's contemplate on the sinking sun, just like a hanging drum. With one recital, one thoughts of the Buddha, of the Amitabha Buddha, we arrive at the city of serenity and peace of the Pure Land. So, wow, this is like a great poem. With this great poem, you can have this direct call, direct button to the Pure Land. So, there are also different practices, just like grounding exercise, and maybe also working with nature, as described by Brazier. And our Professor Harkias also is a Pure Land expert from the Tibetan tradition. So some of the Tibetan practice or the Vajrayana practice, like Pahua, is also connected with the Pure Land practices. So I only have 2 more slides. So basically, there's the same kind of expansions of what we're talking about. The Pure Land practices as a therapeutic model could be quite meditative, contemplative, but also could be quite visuals. This research by Seiko at the bottom right basically talk about like how the counselor have that kind of well or the oceans of faith and trust in the Pure Land. And then eventually that could be connected and expand to the client. So this is actually quite interesting. So it could be quite behavioral, like people may be using their praying breaths. It could be quite visual, so it could be from the audios or the auditory faculties that we can bring different sensations to the Pure Land realities. So that is a gateway to change the coping from the situations, the sufferings that they're experiencing to the Pure Land. Like you look at this drawing is the whole manifestations of the Pure Land And then the left one is actually the lotus that you will be reborn. And the practice by Guanbun is that you have to count the petals on the lotus flowers so that you have achieved that simulations of both meditative and also the connections with the Pure Land Buddha. So she, in his, sorry, maybe she as well, but in the research, talk about is also important when we think about Pure Land practice, how to integrate with rest of the care team, because sometimes there may be misunderstandings of the Pure Land practice. For example, whether we could or could not touch the body, or whether or not that the pain medicine should be administered. So there are some technicalities that we need to work with the medical or the physical well-being perspective as well. Okay, so this is my final slides and also maybe my wish list as well, because when I was reflecting on all these discussions and practices from empirical, clinical perspectives, there are a lot of questions that I have. Some of them are actually addressed today, yesterday, but maybe there are also a lot of room for research. For example, how does Pure Land practice should be adjusted or tailor-made to different cognitive or attentive capacities? For example, some of the clients, they may not be very comfortable or they may not be so suitable for the narrative therapy or the cognitive therapy, whether the Pure Land practice would be something supportive to them. And then yesterday we talked about the tonalities. So if I chant in a monotone versus if I chant in changing tonalities, what does it mean to the transcendence that we can bring forth, or the different brain waves that we talk about. And when we are thinking about chanting, particular for those who are in need, there are a lot of technicalities involved, right? For example, if it is a scheduled counseling session, then it will be a lot more straightforward. But you think about how to bring a group of chanting people to chant together, that is quite challenging. I wonder whether with the current state of technology, we can do a lot more. For example, yesterday we also talked about, these days if you want to chant on the Zoom, you can't synchronize or the voice overlap with one another. And what if someone screw up, right? It's just a lot of responsibility, right? So how to achieve, I feel like today we did a really good job, how to achieve that kind of horizontal transcendency so that we can bring forth some support to those in need. I was wondering, maybe artificial intelligence or some of the technology can allow us to do something real time. Just imagine, for example, right now, if you need some chanting support, there is an online real-time group who are chanting, that could give you support anytime, anywhere you're in the world. So that is my wish list. And also, virtual reality can do a lot, right? Imagine if we can have a good virtual reality to tell you or kind of illustrate to you what's the Pure Land look like. I think that would support the meditative or the contemplative experiences. Right now, there are a lot of gamifications and investment and money spent on games. Maybe we can have a gamifications on the 16 contemplation. So if you manage to do your sun sinking meditations, then you can move on to the next stage. Eventually, you may be able to see the Buddha, have that kind of really good contemplations of how the Avalokiteshvara and how the Amitabha would look like. There are definitely limited research right now, as Venerable Hin Hong mentioned, with huge potential. How do we measure the benefit or the challenges of the Pure Land practices? And what is the impact of the facilitators or the leaders of the chanting? Or is it just kind of cognitive? How does it affect us somatically? How our body change when we are going through these Pure Land practices? And I'm showing this because this is actually very Asian technology, but have been still using right now, the chanting box. So yeah, what does it mean, right? Like if I have a pre-recorded chanting on a chanting box, how does it different from the live, like the real person chanting? Maybe like if you hear a chanting from Venerable Fati or Venerable Hin Hong, how is it different from something led by me, right? So we need to kind of think about it. All right, so that's all I have. I think I'm kind of on time. I don't know how much time I have for Q&A. Yeah, so thank you very much.
Maybe I have one question. Is that talking about the group chanting and even in the virtual reality, so do you think it's possible in the future that we may kind of establish a virtual TAM so that people from everywhere, even globally, they can like join together as Dr. Gemma Perry showed yesterday? So of course we can do it like more professionally with the support of Donglin Goyun.
I think that would be a very interesting idea, right? Because if you imagine, so right now, if you are going through some emotional crisis, you want to have that togetherness. You want kind of a group to be with you, but maybe they are not there, right? So what if like we can kind of match those who wanted to practice anyway, and then those who need that practice? Just kind of a thought. Yeah, maybe it would be an interesting idea. Or maybe it is just something that pre-recorded online. Like, what does it mean, right? Like, if we can have access to something pre-recorded online, would it be equally effective? So there could be some kind of research ideas to tell us, oh, okay, whether it would have an impact. Because there are definitely pros and cons for real time. The real time benefit is that you can operate it across the globe, across time zone. So that, like, for example, tonight, like suddenly you feel very distressed, you want to practice together. Many of us may be already kind of resting, right? Maybe those in the Canada or those in the Europe can help. So that's, yeah, something to throw out and explore. You guys are very compassionate, so any questions?
Thank you very much. Very interesting report. I'm also Buddhist follower, many years, lay Buddhist. My question is just for very one simple is, I noticed the last slide you show the career is looks a little bigger one box. But you know that in the mind, there are many kinds of the career we can use. And like a small round and square, a lot of career, and they also very beautiful image in outside. So I'm not sure is that one your foundation can offer to the follower or just the show for this meeting. It's my wondering. I mean,
there are many versions now, for sure.
Many versions, and the technology developing so fast.
Yeah, totally.
Okay.
Yeah. The one I'm showing you, because it was actually quite ancient. Many of you may have seen
it's a older version, yes.
And kind of distributed by the Phật Kinh Lao Tong Chu back then, so it's more well known at the time. But now there are so many different versions.
Okay, and can I just add one question? For the 5 session chanting Buddha's name, that practice steps, that practice. And may I ask, from my knowledge and from my practice experience, I heard this traditional, very pure and original traditional one also have been lost. And that one, do you use the, is some kind of one or the new version one? 5 session chanting Buddha.
Yeah,
I heard we founded them from Japan.
Yeah, the new version one. The
new version.
one modified.
Not from Tang Dynasty, not that version.
Yeah, but Venerable Hong Xiang has a very interesting research because he did look into some of the Asian texts as well. Yeah.
We have some kind of a version, maybe different, but I didn't listen yours. Okay, let's talk.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
So thank you, Dr. for your wonderful talk. Our next speaker will be Dr. Lee King Jung George, our most welcomed Buddhism counselor and actually clinical psychologist as well. So George is a senior lecturer and the program chair of the Master of Buddhism Counseling at the University of Hong Kong, with dual doctor degrees in clinical psychologist and Buddhism studies. Dr. Lee possesses unique expertise in Buddhism counseling, an innovative discipline that integrates Buddhism wisdom into mental health treatment. In addition to being a California licensed psychologist and a registered supervisor in professional practice of Buddhism counseling, he is a key founding member of both the Master Buddhism Counseling program and the postgraduate diploma in the professional practice of Buddhism counseling program at Hong Kong U Space. Dr. Lee has published numerous articles on the conceptual framework of Buddhist counseling, Buddhism-derived interventions, and the neuroscientific studies related to these interventions. He is also the author of the first textbook on subject titled The Guide to Buddhist Counseling. Yeah, let's invite George to guide us to his talk. Thank you.
I would like to start by something a little different. Om Mani Padme Hum, 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 Om Mani Padme Hum. This is a chanting that actually my mother taught me when I was 20 years old. What happened was that, and when I was 20, I had a breakup. And as a 20 years old young man having a breakup, it was very difficult, very challenging. And my mother, not exactly a Buddhist at that time, but then she is very into like Taoist, Buddhist, spiritual thing. One thing she learned was this Om Mani Padme Hum, Luk Ji Da Ming Zhao. And she said something like, keep chanting it for 108 times and you will feel better. This is actually the first time that I get to learn it. And the presentation today from Venerable Hin Hong and Dr. reminded me of that memory. And one very important thing that reminded me of is not just the chanting, but then the warmth and the love from my mother who wished me well. So today my topic is to talk about virtual Buddhist counseling, no choose, and how AI is connected. And I think the first thing and the most important thing I want to bring out today is one thing that I think no matter how technology develop, that cannot replace is our hearts, our connection with other people. And I think this is the most important part in any kind of counseling, including Buddhist counseling. So this is what we will do today. In the next 30-something minutes, I will talk about my model of Buddhist counseling with some references to what can AI do and what can't AI do, and hopefully I can entertain some questions. So those are some of my background. So the most important thing that is that I think, or like many of you who know me knows that I come from a clinical psychology background. But after meeting Venerable Hin Hong and learning Buddhism, I realized that clinical psychology is very good, but then it's not deep enough to bring about transformation in many situations. So that's why the main thing of my work, and hopefully for the rest of this life, is to be able to integrate Buddhism and psychology. Because psychology has a very skillful contemporary way in communicating with people, in talking to people, while Buddhism has very supreme wisdom. If we combine the two, I think it will be a very powerful way to help us alleviate suffering in this very difficult time. So a little bit of the background. So Buddhist counseling, what it is, right? There are many different definitions. My definition is a little bit complicated. I think the whole process is a holistic counseling model, but the most important thing is the cultivation of mind. Supposedly, a good counselor, good therapist, and good psychologist, anytime when we talk to a client, have a dialogue, ask a question, reflect something, or point out something to the person's awareness, all of that should associate with how we help people cultivate their mind according to Buddhism. Though mind cultivation is a huge thing in Buddhism, right? Many of us have heard about like Waisek mind consciousness schools, or even in early Buddhism. It's mainly about how we cultivate our mind. But what does it mean? Like when we cultivate our mind, it means to bring something more advanced, more transformative. But there is certain kind of goal. The easiest way I can explain today is that I think a main cause of human suffering is how we cling on to the notion of self, or how we cling on to a notion of self through the 5 aggregates. So basically, we hope to be someone, we hope to exceed, and we fabricate and sustain and create a certain identity of who we are, right? So if I ask, who are you? Just like the 参话头, right? Who are you? Then something will come up. My name, my relationship, my achievement, my identity. And all of them is nothing more than a story that we fabricate and continually fabricate. And then we hold on to the story believing that we are the main character, and then we exist. So those are usually how we work and how we give rises to all the problems that we experience. Oh, my role as a teacher, then my students need to be nice and have to be writing good things about me in evaluations, right? Or my role as a husband, then my wife should make dinner for me. Or my role as a mother, my children should be respectful. Or many things. Without our conscious awareness, we keep defining our role and holding on to that to persuade ourselves that, oh, I don't need to be afraid. I can be there. I exist. But this kind of illusionary existence is basically what makes us suffer and suffer again. That's why the goal in Buddhist counseling, from my perspective, is to help clients see how we fabricate the whole world, what is reality, so that we can ease or even let go of certain kind of notion that we have been holding on to, so that we can be flexible, so that we can feel like, well, basically, we don't have to hold on to anything. Just this moment is nothing there, and having nothing is actually peaceful, equanimous. So the objective is, how can we cultivate someone's mind to reach that level? And the intervention that I use and develop and summarize is called no choose. So basically, this is a more complicated way to talk about what is a human being and why do we suffer, right? So all the things happening in the world. Anyone know about the concept dependent arising or dependent origination? Yeah? So all the things in the world, outside of ourselves or inside of ourselves, everything is dependent originated. Everything is dependent co-arising. Paticca samuppada, meaning that everything, you know it or not, those are different causes and conditions to give rise to something. And causes and conditions always change, and that's why that's impermanent. All the things keep changing, arising and ceasing. That's the nature of things. Objectively, things are configured due to the law of dependent origination. But inside our mind, we don't like impermanence, right? So how many people here have ever been in love or get married? Anyone? Oh, sorry, Venerable. Yeah, okay, I feel. Okay. Sorry, Venerable. And Venerable, you don't have to answer. They just need to observe what happened in your mind. Anyone, when you start a relationship, the first thought is, relationship is impermanent. The diamond ring doesn't mean anything. Marriage is impermanent. No, right? Usually we don't think like that. We would think relationship is permanent. There is something called happily ever after, which is the biggest lie of all time, right? But our mind doesn't like that. Our mind keep on fabricating and continuing certain kind of fantasies so that we feel safe. So we call that when anything that come into our body, we have our perception, and there's something called first configuration. Based on experiences, we come up with some label to make sense of things. And very quickly, our ego consciousness arise, become the second configuration, so that there's a notion of self to try to form a relationship of what we have experienced. So say like, what is this? This is a phone, right? We all have a smartphone. So if my phone dropped and break, how would that make you feel? Nothing, emptiness, nothing much, right? But if I come take your phone and drop it and break it, how would that make you feel? Anger, aversion, dosa, right? All the proliferations of life, you need to pay me back, you know how expensive my phone, all the data is inside. But the phones are just phones. By nature, they are dependent co-arising, right? They doesn't have any true nature. It's not something really existing. But inside our mind, whether I drop my phone or your phone, our feeling, our emotions, our stress are totally different. Why? Because of clinging. Because we hold on to the phenomenon. Because they're subject of I, my phone, and this is mine. I need to relate to that. I think this is mine. I have control. So every time when we feel that we have control over things, usually this is the starting point of problem. But then we use our subjective perspective to try to control things in our life so that we think that, when I have that, I will be satisfied. Or there's something I don't like, I push that away. When I do that, I will be happy. But basically, that never brings us happiness. So I think this is a little complicated, right? Let's take a simple way. So I view. So how do we see things as I? How many people see football or soccer here? Anyone? Anyone like soccer? No? Okay, a few of us. Okay, good. And Dr. Gao, not just like this watch soccer match, he is very good in a soccer field. So I view, if we put it in a soccer, it means that certain kind of players in the world, everything is about me, very self-centered. Cristiano Ronaldo, right? Sorry for any Cristiano Ronaldo fans. It's me. I win, it's me. I lose, it's me. Everything is very self-centered. Then what happened? Great amount of stress. I have to be responsible for everything. I need to push myself to the limit to feel that I have total control, or else I'm a total failure. Do you want a life like that? Is there suffering? There's a lot of suffering, right? Well, like other kind of players, right? It's not just I know Messi. It's about we as a team. I can pass, we win together, we lose together, so that we feel better, right? So I see like some of the people smiling. You guys are Messi fans, right? Yeah, Messi. Except like how he didn't play in the Hong Kong match. I love him a lot. Messi, we. So that we dissolve a little bit of the I-ness to the we-ness, which is better. But is that a letting go of self-identity? Is that letting go of clinging? I don't think so. When we think that there's a non-I, it's almost like when you are watching a soccer field, watching the players playing without any attachment, without any identification. Just like when you see a movie playing, but you don't see it, it's just a movie playing by itself. Just like the soccer players playing, winning or losing. Just a phenomenon, but no I in there. So basically, one of the things that we want to learn to do, that non-attachment, is to be able to step back, to realize that, the I want to hold on to there, and it brings me suffering. Can I ease that and step back and just know and see what happened without personalization or identification? But it's very difficult, right? Very difficult. Because we have a habit of believing that I am involved. This is me. So when we see lightning, how many people have seen lightning? You've seen lightning, right? How many people, when you see lightning, the first thought coming to you is that, there must be someone behind the clouds doing the lightning. Maybe Thor, right? Thor is hitting something, the lightning come up. Anyone think like that? No, right? Okay. But when nowadays, like, we also have a lot of AI robots that can do a lot of things to communicate, to do math, and do a lot of human tasks, even like shooting basketball, those kind of things. Anyone would think there's an I as a soul inside those robots. That's why they move. No one would think that, right? But why is it that when we are talking, when we are in love, when we are working, when we're being criticized, we would think that this is me, this I am, this is myself. Why? This is a habit. This is a cognitive schema, like Venerable Hinong said. We have been forming and feeding this cognitive schema for a very long time. That's why we believe that everything has to do with me and I. And that's why we have an illusion of control and existence. And part of us like it regardless of how much suffering it brings to us. And that's why it's difficult. So one thing is to help the client see what is a non-self. Is there any way that we don't have to be I, we don't have to hold on to it, and then to feel the peace from that, and to know I don't have to exist in the way that I want and I'm okay about it. So this is the no choice model I was talking about. So basically 3 things, 3 big concepts. And I would say it aligns with most of the Buddhist practices or like Buddhist counseling model that you do. It can just sleep in very well. So first of all, note. Note is basically to see, to feel, to be aware and understand. For example, at this moment, are you able to notice what does your mind say? Are you able to notice how does your body feel sitting here? Or more detailedly, what about your shoulders, your back? How does it feel? So all those kind of attention to our body and mind is to note, to understand. For example, some of us feel that, my shoulder is a little tight, I need to move it. Or my back, I have been leaning too much, I want to sit up more straight. So this is noticing what happened in your body or even your mind. Most of our time, we are not aware of what is happening in our mind and body. Where does our mind go? In all those fantasies, in the past and future. So coming back so-called to this moment, present moment, is raising our awareness of what is going on at this very moment. So for example, if you don't believe me, how many of you is breathing now? Okay. How many of you have been noticing your breath in the last 2 hours? Okay, a few. Very good, very good. How many of you is having a heartbeat? Yeah, okay. Thought about you're a doctor, right? If someone doesn't have a heartbeat, you need to do things, okay? How many of you have been aware of your heartbeat in the last 2 hours? Oh, very good. So most of us are not. But we are experiencing a lot of things, having a lot of phenomena that we are not aware of. And many times we are not aware of how our strong thoughts, emotions arise, and we hold on to that to bring us suffering. So noting is to help people raise awareness of body and mind. And many times, like Venerable Hinong's Dharma therapy, spiritual oasis, or any kind of meditation, is to help them foster the capacity to be aware. But when we are aware, another thing is to know. Know it like noting is to see. Knowing is to see through. Knowing is to turn towards. What are our fetters? What are our clinging? How do we construct the self-notion? And sometimes, more importantly, what are our yearning and craving? For all the things we do, what do we actually want? So many times that we are so good in lying to ourselves, right? I'm doing this donation, I'm helping these people because I'm a compassionate person. But all those kind of thoughts sometimes is actually just to feed our self-notion. I want to feel superior, I want to be good. Sometimes we're not hearing a deeper voice of how we actually are like and who we want to become. The first step about counseling, and sometimes the final step that I see in many clients, is cultivating certain kind of self-compassion, unconditional self-love. So many times that we're so harsh to ourselves, just like being a counselor, the clients that we see. In many situations, the turning point in counseling is actually to have the client start cultivating self-compassion. It sounds very difficult, But one thing very easy is that just to help them love themselves the way that they love their most important person in life is actually a key turning point. So many times that we don't know that our resistance to ourselves, our hatred to ourselves is actually a key cause of problem. To know that this is how we do, to know that when I need more kindness, I can benefit from my own kindness is a huge turning point. And after that, choosing with the realization, with a more stronger capacity in mind, how can we choose to live everyday life? Choose is action. Action is karma. Every time you think about something, you talk about something, behaviorally choosing to do something, you're generating certain kind of habits. So when you choose to be kind to people, you're cultivating your mind and your behavior to a more kind person. And next time when something come up, it's just like what Dr. talked about. It's a training of like, Abhidhamma, or like Avalokiteshvara. This is the first thing when I come up when I'm fear. First thing when I come up when I'm stressed. When it becomes readily accessible in your mind, then it will be a first reaction for you to other people. That's changing your karma internally and externally the karma ripening. So many things that I do is to follow that model, to do this 3 phases again and again to help with my clients. But today, of course, it's not just that. We are mixing in AI, right? The first thing I want to ask you is, okay, those are the models, those are my work in Buddhist counseling, those are my research of translating what we did in neuroscience and other research into a counseling room. But can AI replace us? Is there something that AI cannot do? What do you think? Anything that you think AI cannot do? No, nothing, right? Cannot be a Buddha. AI cannot be a Buddha, right? Okay, any other things? Huh? Conceptual? Oh, I see. Consciousness. AI, does it have consciousness? Dr. Gao was having a conversation about that with me. Does AI consciousness? But in a counseling role, do you think AI can replace human? For example, Venerable Hin Hong, we take always talk and counseling work and make an AI Venerable Hin Hong. Would it still work? Dr. Gao already talked to me about this project, okay? I'm not lying, okay? Does it still work? Yeah, no, maybe. We don't know. Well, let's talk about it. Huh? Why not? Why not, right? Okay, why not? Yes or no, we don't know. Okay, so to answer that question, I want you to think about another thing. When you are in suffering, we have all been suffering, Ron, at least sometime in our life, right? Everyone have suffered here, right? Yes? Yeah? Suffered? Yeah? First noble truth, supposed to be universal. We all have suffering. When you are in suffering, what kind of counselor do you want to see? How is a counselor like? What kind of counselor do you want to see? What characteristics? Compassionate? Yeah, compassionate. Doesn't have to be good looking, right? But compassionate. Any other qualities? Patient, very good. Patient, compassionate. Any others? Wisdom, wise, patient, and compassionate. Okay. Right view. Wow. Wow, very deep, very deep. Right view. Yes, the forerunner of all the noble path, right? Okay. Wise, right view, compassionate, patient. So those are the things that you need to feel from a person. Like Dr. said, AI may not become a Buddha. Those are the things that you need to feel from a person. So think about when you see the presence of a person, how does that make you feel? Do you want to see a counselor like this? What's wrong? Huh? No? Why? Yes? Oh, yes? Oh, okay, good. There's certain kind of human presence, certain kind of connections, or certain kind of things that we read, we feel from the person that makes you feel soothed, makes you feel comfortable. Well, from my view, being a Buddhist counselor, we become the object of meditation for our client. We become what they focus on from how we talk, how we guide. It's just like when they meditate, They guide their mind to focus there, not so attached or easing. We are doing the job for them. So we become the object of meditation. Imagine if they are your object of meditation. Or you would prefer to see counselors like this. Much better, right? Much better, much better. So just like the example that I gave at the very beginning, like my mother teaching me to chant Hum Mani Padme Hum, it's not just the words itself, it's not just the content, but the emotional feeling, the cognitive schema of compassion. From my mother to Guan Yin Avalokiteshvara, everything becomes part of the concept into our cognitive schema so that we can foster a wholesome mind state. Okay. So, for example, but you may say that, okay, but AI is so good now, right? Do you think that you can be better than AI, George? Well, I'm not saying better, but maybe different. So, for example, let's do it, okay? There's a 32 years old Chinese female client saying that my boyfriend just broke up with me, but I still miss him a lot. It's heartbreaking, but I don't know how to let go of him. Not the most difficult situation, but pretty common for many people, many clients that go for this situation, okay? So nowadays, do you know that we have many AI therapists, many AI chatbots, right? You don't have to go out, you don't need to pay people, you don't need to go to any place. You just need to download an app, sometimes I give some information, type your problem, and then there will be a conversation. So let's see what would the AI say. Okay, AI therapist. I'm so sorry to hear that. It's totally normal to feel that way, especially when you've invested so much of yourself in the relationship. It's like your heart is still attached to him even though the relationship ended. Can you tell more about what's making it so hard for you to let go? Is it the memories you shared, the way he made you feel, or something else entirely? For example, do you find yourself constantly thinking about him or checking social media to see what's up to him? So what do you think about this response? Huh? Oh, okay, not bad, right? Not bad, right? Not bad. Not too bad, right? To be honest, like a regular counselor like me would say something like that too sometimes. So the content itself, AI is able to do a big data to collect what considered to be good responses and put it together to give it to a client. That's not a problem. And in fact, it may help some people too, right? At least if I'm lonely, I don't know what to do, having some responses, it makes me feel a little better. But what can a real counselor do? AI cannot do yet. Might be one thing is clinical judgment. So for example, if I see a client like that, what things might I do? The first thing is I will give you a psychologist answer to everything. It depends. Well, when we don't know something or we know something, it's always it depends. Because sometimes clinical judgment is not something so easy to talk about how do I make a decision at that moment. Maybe when AI advances, it may work, but for me, there can be many things. Or maybe I can sense a deep sadness radiating from you just by sitting next to you. It must be incredibly painful for you. Those are the responses that I have to be connected to the person, at least online or in person, to sense the sadness by reading the facial expressions, listening to the voice, and having my heart also visualize a similar thing and be there for the person to give a response like that. I may ask questions, I may wait, I may do some psychoeducation. Maybe part of the pain come from blaming yourself for not being able to let go. Sometimes deeper the wound, the more patience and kindness are needed. So something like that. There may be many different responses. Of course, it's so easy for AI to learn the possible responses. But I think the two things that for me AI still cannot do is, first, how to establish that human connectedness. Because many times healing doesn't just come from knowledge and concept. It comes from human relationships. Second, making a good judgment to guide the client deeper for different reflections, different insights is something very complicated because AI at this age, from my understanding, they have not mastered certain kind of true empathy to understand a person's emotions. They can act like it, but for them, it may not mean that much. But to us, it means the whole world. So those are the things that I think AI may not be able to do. Truly empathize with a human emotions. And imagine if you sit facing a robot and a person, usually a person being with you may not be able to say much. Somehow that accompany, that not abandoning you, that willingness to be with you in a difficult time is precious already. Well, but of course, we need to talk about the contrary, right? What can AI do? Have you any thought about in counseling, psychotherapy, what can AI do already? Well, let me ask you. Can AI assist counselors in daily practice? Easy and we'll start with. How many say yes? How many say no? No, okay. Oh, thank you. Like teachers like a variety of answers, right? So that we don't have to give A to everyone. The answer is yes. Basically, in daily practices, especially in the United States and many other countries, AI have been doing work like scheduling for client, doing client records, or even doing some simple screening. Like AI can help you do certain kind of screening, let the therapist know how the mental health symptoms are like, and maybe triaging the different level of services. So there are many things that AI can do already. Very good. Easy to imagine, right? Many of us do AI for our work daily. Oh, this one is more difficult. How accurate is AI in diagnosing mental health disorders? 1, 70%, 2, 80%, 3, 90%, finally 95%. How many of you say 1, 70? Okay. 2, 80. 3, 90. Okay. D, 95. Okay. Final answer? Final answer 1, 2, 3, go. Actually, 89% of accuracy in diagnosing mental health disorder. And some researchers suggested that AI can remove a lot of human biases and stereotypes in our assessment, which can be very powerful. So just by diagnosing, if we have a good AI tool, it may be as good or sometimes better than clinicians or practitioners. Very impressive. Finally, can AI provide mental health treatment alone? No, yes, but just an assistant, or yes. How many people say no, AI cannot do that alone, level? Okay, 2, 3. Very good. Usually, in any multiple choice questions, all the instructors and professors will give the answer to something that looks like real but not exactly real to be the answer. So B is always the answer. In fact, there are new research, not too new, like in the past 5-6 years, research have been showing that some AI can actually develop to do some treatment solely on their own. And some cases, some researchers also suggest that maybe they are better than a human-led treatment in some of the disorders. Of course, mental health disorders, huge complexity, a lot of different things. What they are usually doing are just for depression and anxiety, mainly measuring some symptoms reduction. Okay? So it may work in some situations. And another thing that, like gradual exposure. How many people are afraid of spider here? No? Oh, that's good. Okay, oh, thank you. When I was in when I was in my first graduate degree in the University of Southern California, I was trying to get more research experience. And then I just trying to find some lab to join. I joined the lab of spider phobia treatment. So what we need to do is we use real spider, ultimately put on the person's head, and they need to report their subjective unit of suffering level is less than a 4, like out of 10, okay? So exposure is a repeated exposure. You keep doing again. You are very afraid, and then they're like, okay, yeah, just do it like that again, and again. The problem is not about the experiments. The problem is that all experimenter have to go through that experience so that I have my spider on my head, on my hand, and all that. But nowadays, with AI and virtual reality, you can just wear that and feel the spider on you. So those are some new advancements and much safer, because like many times the phobia is not about spiders, right? It can be about like cars or like tall buildings, all those kind of different things. So AI can do pretty well in certain kind of particular disorders already. Well, again, what can AI do? Just now I talked about like many great things that AI have done, right? I still think that a deep level of counseling for sustainable transformation is pretty difficult because we require genuine compassion with the wisdom and right way to do that, right? This is the first thing I don't think AI can do. Second thing, this is even more important, not just about counseling, but for us as Buddhist practitioners. Nowadays, we have been relying on AI in many things. We almost feel like AI can do most of the things for us. Creating a PowerPoint, writing a letter, or like designing poster, different kind of things. Music composition, or like more advanced thing AI can do. But cultivation is one thing that AI can never do for us. Cultivation, our own practice of the mind, cultivation of mind, is a precious thing that we can only do for ourselves. And AI, at most, can only be a facilitator. So that's why I argue the mind cultivation, AI cannot do it alone for our clients. We have to do it for ourselves and also be an effective guide for our client for any kind of spiritual pursuit or mind transformation. Okay, finally, let me introduce a little bit of the model to you and to talk about what might I think AI can help. The first thing, like I said, noting, is sustaining and refining attention to cultivate capacity for awareness. So usually when we see clients at the beginning, we help them to develop a certain kind of meditation practices. They need to be committed to that. Like Venerable Hino said, you need practice to make improvement or even perfection. So usually we help our clients to focus on like body, breath, or brain. Like brain is a skillful term to talk about mind. But then through being aware of them, attaining certain kind of balance, then their mind can actually settle down and be less attached to all those kind of thoughts, all those kind of emotions that have been haunting them. And something that we are not aware of is it's comparatively easy to feel that our body can relax. This is tight, this is relaxed, right? But our mind, it actually can become tight and relaxed. Can you ever tell how hard are you in holding on to a thought versus letting a thought go? There are different ways that we hold on to a thought or thinking. It can be fast, it can be slow, it can be tight, it can be easing. A lot of times when we help clients to cultivate the mindfulness is to help them be aware of, this thinking, I use a lot of thought, I use a lot of force to it. Now I'm relaxing my mind, now it's letting go, and now I'm just observing it without holding on to that. So those are the things that I think is difficult for AI to teach us what to do. Those are the things that we need to work with our client to look at their verbal and nonverbal reactions to let them know and feel, this is tightness, this is untight, this is ease, this is the 3 poisons, this is 5 hindrances. Those are some of the things that we need to work closely, be observant ourselves, have a cultivation experiences in our mind so that we can see that of our client. So noting to foster that concentration or that balanced attention to things, those are the things that we need our own practice to guide people to do. And those are the skills that are used for No. I won't go through all of them. The reason I'm showing here is that I'm trying to prepare for my next book, 64 Techniques in Buddhist Counseling. 64 is because my student is a Taoist and he says 64 is a good number. But I only come up with 53, so I'm thinking about what to do. Maybe I'll cut it to 50 or try to get 11 more. Another thing is, after our mind becomes tranquilized, becomes stable, our mind becomes more clear. I can observe without holding on to concepts. Then what do I observe? So knowing is, in every moment when we are suffering, can we come back to a certain kind of objective stance so that we can see clearly what things are actually causing our suffering externally and internally? And this is a diagram that I created based on the 12 factors of dependent origination plus some psychological concept. So basically, we all have a tanha, a craving. We want something, we want to exist. And then with that energy, we hold on to certain things, concepts, body, views, to form our identity. When the identity is solidified, our ego consciousness keep eating onto that and feel like this is I. We have a lot of expectations on different things, on ourselves, on other people, on our partners, on relationships. And reality will never disappoint you by always disappoint you. Reality will always will not disappoint you by always disappointing you, right? Have anyone here have ever been disappointed by reality? Yes, right? So, whenever the reality does not fit with your clinging notion of self, it arises with suffering, dukkha. So dukkha in another way is a discrepancy between what happened and what you want. And usually this is not the worst. The worst is we try our best to hold on to and fabricate and reject and control reality that causes even more suffering. So to know simply is to see through. For this behavior, for this suffering, for this relationship, like how come I cannot let go of how my parents do not recognize me? How come I don't let go of the breakup? How come I'm so sad and so angry about having this cancer? All those kind of things we can trace back deeper to what are our yearnings and how do we hold on to as ourselves. Once we see through, those are my reasons. Those are the things I cannot let go. I just really want that, but do I have to have that? Again, I just really want it, but I don't have to have it. When we have realization like that, then this is the first step to accept and let go. Accept and let go. And then those are some of the skills that I use and try to develop to help clients become more non-attached to things that happen to them. And like Venerable Hinong said, there are many different types of meditation. So finally, after I have awareness, then what do I do? Because coming back to life, moment by moment, we make a lot of decisions in between any kind of thought. Do I think? Do I not think? Do I think deeper? Do I not think deeper? Do I reject? Or do I pursue? Or do I let go? Or simply, do I choose to be kind to myself and other people? All those kind of things is a new decision point or potentials, because we all work in a way of samsara. It's not about life and death, but we are all repeating certain kind of patterns again and again. And every time when we do something like that, we are feeding the existence of I. When we are able to notice how we are feeding the existence of I, we can pause and think about, do I want to feed that again? Well, I want to protect something. I don't want something to change. It sounds to be nice, right? But actually, it may be a sign of aversion. I'm rejecting something because of I don't like it. Then when I feed my aversion by resisting something or protecting something, I'm feeding the existence of a certain kind of self that perpetrates my suffering again and again. So noting is to know that this brings me suffering. Let me calm my mind to look into it. Knowing is, those are the reasons I feel like I have to exist in a certain way, or I really want this. Choosing is, maybe at this moment, I try something different. When I see, say like a supervisor, a father, a mother, a boss that always irritate me, can I choose to do an experiment? I have always fought back, but this time I try to be super nice. Or like, I've been super nice, but can I try to say something back? And all of that is about breaking our habitual pattern so that we don't log in the same samsara. And every time, we are keenly observing again and again to see whether the outcome brings us more suffering or less suffering sustainably. And every day, our mind is doing a new experiment to observe itself, to see that, when I think, speak, and act in this way, it actually makes me and other people less suffering. And then I will continually do that until it becomes a habit, and then the samsara and karma exchange. So, thank you, Siri. Yes. See, this is how AI support our work, right? Listening to me. So finally, just want to say that this is a book that I published, and the reason why I'm kind of like sorry for the commercial time, Dr. Gao, is because that if I want to publish the next book in the techniques in Buddhist counseling, the sales need to be better for this one. And now it's being translated in Vietnamese. It will be sold in Vietnam and internationally in other places. So because of that, if you're interested, you can take a look. And this is all for my presentation. And I just want to iterate one point. Coming back to the story of my mother, I hope that it resonates with you. Guan Yin, mother, Venerable Hin Hong, any important ones in our life, the reason why we love ourselves, the reason why we're able to change, the reason why we don't give up when they are suffering is because of that compassionate connection. And this is something so precious that no matter how technology advances, don't lose that. Always cultivate that to connect yourself with all other beings. Thank you. Is there any question?哦，蘇我講，我刪咗添。唔緊要啦，我哋咁樣得㗎啦。No? Okay. If no
Any
question.
question?
Maybe we're hungry for lunch, right? Yes. Can Amy can help us send to any participants who are interested. Okay. Venerable 恒慈 yeah. 恒慈法師 hello.
Dr. Judge, I want to ask you one question. For AI advantage, I think nowadays AI they collect a lot of data from us. Like for example, AI knows what I have purchased on Taobao yesterday. So they collect so many things what I want yesterday or last week. The AI all knows. So do you think this is an advantage of AI compared to us?
To be honest, I think AI is much more capable than us in doing many things. In preparing for this study, this presentation, I'm looking at like new advancement of what AI can do in replacement of counselor. And I have a lot of memories about how, wow, when we were a student, studying, memorizing on diagnostic menus, or like being a trainee, learning to diagnose, or doing the psychometric evaluation, testing IQ, those kind of things. Those are such a tough things for us. But we thought that after we master that, I am a psychologist and help people. But nowadays, AI may be able to do better than us and will do better than us in the future. So I think, yes, those are the advantages. Those are many things that AI can do what we cannot. And that's why what we are unique is even more important. Again, I cannot say more. It's still the compassion. From our own cultivation to our connection with other people to make people feel that they're really being understood so that we can guide their cultivation of mind to bit by bit liberate from suffering. I still don't think AI can replace that totally. I think AI can be a good assistant. Perhaps if we use it well, it can be a good facilitation for us to become a better cultivator and better counselor. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for coming.
So we're coming back at 2 p.m. Thank you.